All right, welcome to what might be the actual last LN2 video that we do. I don't know. You know, I don't like giving up. Never give up, never surrender. Corsair's 4000D AF delivers optimized front panel airflow and maximum cooling for your PC, and with its built-in rapid route cable management keeps your system looking tidy while also staying extremely cool. The equipped Corsair 120 Air Guide fans provide directed airflow, allowing you to fine-tune the components you want to keep cool. To see the full list of features and configurations for the Corsair 4000D and 4000D AF, click the link in the description below. All right, so there's two very different approaches now I'm taking to this. One, all of the success that you've seen me have so far with LN2 has truly been stumbled upon. Like I haven't even started breathing the nitrogen yet. Has been stumbled upon on accident, quite honestly, through trial and error. But the thing is, I can't make any headway without data. So one of the major things we started doing here is we're keeping a spreadsheet. And the data on here is basically what's the memory speed, what's the core speed, what voltages, what load line settings, what was my target temperature, what was I running at during the test, how far did the test complete, and what was the result. So I'm keeping track of like, these settings gave me this result. And then I'm changing one thing at a time, which I've preached a million times. But I'm keeping track of it, which is something I need to do all along because Vince, bless his heart, Kingpin, he's been he's pushing for me. He's like, come on, man, you can do this. I know you can. You're not the idiot you say you are. He doesn't know me like you guys do. But he was like, you need to find a true baseline through trial and error, which is what we're doing. Because now that I've been able to get this card, as of yesterday, up to 2,550 megahertz at 1.35 volts, which is actually insane, because check this out. Look how far I was able to get on stock voltage. Well, technically I just did 1.25 volts, but 2,490 megahertz on 1.25 volts. That means this card is a good card. If we can reach just under 2,500 megahertz on 1.25 volts, that says a lot. Now we were able to get 2,550 to pass at 1.35 volts, average temp kept at minus 133. So that's where we're gonna start today. Now one of the things that I realized is that my mounting pressure was really starting to suffer. Now check this out. This is the second card here. Do you see how, whoa, it's loose. Look at how wobbly that is. Look at that mounting pressure. Look how poor that is. It's like half the core wasn't even getting touched. That means it was all crooked. And I'm going, wait a minute. I mounted this using my C-clamp method I've been doing, which got me some really good mounts. I mean, heck, even Phil saw I was able to run these things super cold without cracking the paste. But do you see how uneven that mount is? Look at the pot. That is why I was crashing. Very, very bad mount. The areas that are not getting touched under proper pressure are gonna be hot spots on the die, and the area like that's basically squished is gonna be the cold spot. So you get these really uneven temperatures. So I was really starting to become concerned that these had stripped. Well, see, this one I think might actually be stripped. Now that's fine, I think, as long as it can pull all the way like tight, but it tells me it's not fine based on that mounting pressure. It's the screw that's stripped. And that's actually good news because he sent me extras. It's almost like maybe he knew this, right? So that's fine. I'll deal with this later. Because one of the things I want to do is when this card becomes fatigued, you can only run it so much. In fact, yesterday we ran 18 times that we logged it. So that's way more than you really want to do in a single setting, a single sitting, I mean. You really want to just kind of try and you want to nail it on the first 2 tries, according to Vince. And then you're kind of done at that point, because one of the things that happened is the board freezes over. I had even mentioned on there, I don't know if Nick made a note, I'll have to check and see on here. I even made it like a mention, I'm getting flickering. The screen is flickering. And stuff like that seems very indicative of memory. And I do recall Vince saying, the memory can only handle the cold for so long. And then you start getting weird errors. Frozen memory, remember I've said it before on the core, it gets too cold, that's just as bad as too hot. The same goes for the memory. So we're gonna continue today. Nick is gonna be filling my LN2 for me, also keeping notes of the things I'm telling him. We're gonna start with settings that are on this blue line, so 1600 on the memory, which is low. I've actually gotten 1800 memory to run just fine. So I know I'm not gonna get my best score unless I get my fast memory going too, but I wanna try and maximize my core before I play with memory, because if I'm changing more than one thing at a time, I don't know what caused the crash, which is why you do this with your hand. These are graphs going up and down. Without boring you guys any more than I already have, I need to bring the pot temperature down. It takes a while for the pot to be able to actually keep up with the card. It's kind of funny. When the pot is not fully frozen all the way through with LN2, like the innards, the guts of the metal. Hey, I'm trying to make a video over here.
Sorry.
Like the guts of the metal, and down here it's gonna be colder than up here. And I need the entire pot to be cold all the way through for it to actually have enough cooling capacity. The bottom half is copper, the top half is aluminum, but I've noticed if it's not cold all the way through, when I start the test, even if I have a full pot of LN2 and I can't do anything else, it's full, the temperature rises and it will start at like 120 and hit all the way to like 180 and then crash because it's too warm. So until I can get the pot temperature to actually hold and not warm up with the GPU, the tests aren't ready yet. So rather than boring you guys through all that process of bringing the pot temperature down, which can take 10, 15 minutes, I'm just gonna do it and then we'll bring you guys along for the first run. So when you start getting that real, like, it sounds like bacon cooking sound, then you know you got the pot nice and cold. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and do our first run. This is 2550, 1.3 volts. I put the voltage back up a little bit. We just have to hope the pot is cold enough though to keep it from slingshotting too warm during the run. I believe it is. And this is the balancing act, is I have to preload the pot a little bit too right at the start of the run because I don't want it to get too warm, but then if it crashes at the start, then it gets too cold and it pops the grease. Oh, we crashed. We crashed at like 5% in or so. So one of the things I do with the torch after a crash like that is I use it to keep it from getting too warm. Oh, I'm sorry, too cold. Yeah, I want to add some heat to it because the GPU is not adding a load. I honestly believe a lot of this crashing right now is temperature related. I'm going to leave the settings where they are and try again. I'm just having a really hard time keeping the temperature as cold as I want. So that's why I don't believe it to be a voltage or a mount thing right now. That just shows how much incredible heat these cards generate when it can be at minus 140 and then within 15 seconds in the run, it's at minus 115. That, what, 30C, 25C, whatever it is, like swing, could definitely be enough to crash it. That one was an instant crash. Same settings, instant crash. You see how we do the same thing and get different results? I mean, that's the definition of insanity. Now I guess I go like 1.4. Now I'm just, see, it's funny because it's the same thing with a CPU. Like you can find like, oh, I can get really far on stock voltage, and then as soon as you crash, you find you need like a ridiculous amount of extra voltage to get to the next like level. And it's frustrating to see like how far something can go on stock voltage and then just suddenly be like, nope, hard stop. If it crashes again instantly at the start, I'll do a restart of the system. Yeah, another crash. Okay, another instant crash. I'm going to be very hard on the system right now. I'm just going to shut it down. Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes when you get crashes like that, you have to restart it. Like now we're stuck on a memory code. How much of my problems is actually this stupid platform? X299 is, I mean, it's been such a pain in the ass over the years. So that completed. That was only 2520 though, but that's promising. 17,148. It's still quite a ways away from our best score, but we're doing this still with a lot less voltage. Now we'll go back to the 2550 and just run it again with all the same settings. So now we've reached this point where it's crashing at the start of the test no matter what, and just by bumping it up 25 megahertz. So now I gotta do the heal process, warm it up to about minus 1 or minus 50, minus 60, which gets the paste to kind of reflow and get soft again. Then just repeat. See, now that I'm documenting this like I should be, now I can at least see what happened. You know, I could paint this picture. Right at the end. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and warm this card up, tear it down, we'll take a look at the mount, dry it out, repaste it, go again. So now that I've got the back covering off and I've got it somewhat dried off, there's like water seeping out of it everywhere. I know it's part of my problem here. I wanna loosen these and see if the screws became loose, and then we're gonna remount it. Let's see how the mount did. I'd say it's pretty centered. So that was a good mount, for sure. That's really cold in there. Like if I was to take a thermocouple and see what it's still at right now, like it's still at 3C. Well, Vince did say it needs more pressure on the mounting plate, so I fixed it. Okay, if we push hard enough, it'll probably stab through. Yeah, just like that. It's a handle for carrying. All right, we're back up and running. We got the pot temp on its way down. With how wide the mounting point is, that when you tighten it down, it can actually bow the board outward. So it pulls the die away from the pot some, and it may be like microns of distance, but that truly does matter when you're doing the extreme temperatures and stuff like this. So by having the clamp squeeze it back, we might actually get somewhere here. Not something I'd ever actually considered until Vince told me, which is funny because I use it to mount the pot, and we saw improvements in getting a nice level mount with that on there, but now having the 4 screws and the direct tension in the middle, we might actually be able to see some sort of progress here. I do like the fact that I got 1900 megahertz to run before we stopped. So if I can get 1600 with a high core clock, and then I get the core clock to continue to go up, I'm curious if we're gonna see any sort of improvement. So that's why we're kind of starting off right where we left off prior to even starting today. Like the blue line I showed you, which was our last like successful highest numbers. So with this run, I'm doing 2550, 1600 on the memory, just to see if I can get it to pass. And if it does pass with this, then we'll push it. We're at minus 115. I gotta get this down to like minus 130 before I can truly get it to start. Otherwise, like I've showed before, it will get far too warm at the start of the test and it will crash. There'll be no point. So I've got to give the pot time to get as cold as it can get. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's the thing, is this is truly repetitive. Oh, that crack right when it froze, that's a bad sign. So I need to do a warm up now. I feel like that crack was the paste because now it's just crashing instantly. And the fact that it crashed right when the paste cracked. And there's something I'm realizing now. If I've got a really good bond, like the pressure that's being pushed on that die is better than before, that might mean now I don't need to run it as cold. Because let's say if we're having bad thermal transfer and I've got to run it at like minus 130 to keep the die at like minus 100 because of whatever the difference is, if now we have that real nice tight fit, I could probably go a little warmer with it and maintain stability because of the fact that we got good thermal transfer. So if the pot's a little bit warmer but the GPU's closer to the temp of the pot than the delta we had before, that'd be a really good sign. And with how fast it warms up right now while I'm doing my warm up, look, and this is stock. This is roughly stock speed because one of the things we do is we remove the clock offset while we're doing this. So we're healing the paste essentially is what this is called, which means now I think my new target needs to be like minus 120. So that was a 17357. It's actually the second run back to back we got to complete. Current settings on this are 1800 on the memory, 475 or 2565 on the core. We were having some artifacts or like some screen flickering though, which tells me I believe the memory was causing that. And I think the memory can go higher than what we're currently doing. What we sort of found here too, watch all the ice come out. Like that's essentially the same speeds I had gotten that 17,501 with. So there's still some inefficiency somewhere. Not entirely sure what it is, although I do believe the 17,501 was with 1900 megahertz memory. So but the flickering can also be causing frame drops, which will dramatically affect the score. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna push the memory voltage back to where it was. I was trying to reduce it some, but we're at 1.45 volts, load line 5, which is got us some stability here. We're finally onto something here. I knocked over a whole thermos of LN2 on my arm, and you can see my arm is still attached. It didn't break off, there's no burns. This is looking really promising, this run. What? What? Just because I said it. If this will complete the last few percent, which it loves to just troll me with, this might be my best score based on the frames drawn I just saw.
Is that exactly your score? Isn't that exactly the...
17,501 is the one I have online, and then and then the score I have saved that I never put up is a 507. I landed exactly in between them. Well, I guess 104 would have been closer. But hey, why don't we just go for more, right? It's working right now. Finger in, fan. Whoa, it's a new high score. I mean, I'll take a couple of points. It means I'm getting somewhere. Let me save.
Going
I'm
somewhere?
girding progress. I want to get my name on the board with 2600 or above. Right now it's at 2595 or 2565. I can't remember. Look, progress. 2610. 17574. I'm going to do this over and over and over, okay? Unless something goes, then I'll show you and I'll come back and be like, oh man, when it crashes and I'm that close. So that was 2625. I'm so used to saying 25. So that was 20. We're going to call it here. How many runs have I done since this repaste? 24 runs since that repaste. And that's because I keep blowing out the water and the ice and stuff, trying to get as much time as I can out of it. We'll take a look and see if any ice built up that I couldn't see. I think I've done a pretty good job keeping it under control. But here's the thing. In the middle of that run, I don't know if Nick or Phil caught it, but I went, ooh. Like at one point I looked at the thing and I went, ooh, and my face got all excited. Because there's a particular part of the test I like to look at and see what the FPS is. And that's when it's pointing down at the ship as it's going into the dock or the bay or whatever it is. And at the start of all of this, I was getting like 125, 120, and then it will drop down to like 123. And earlier today I went, man, if I could get that number up to like 130. And I saw 130. That's when I was like, okay, we're on to getting some real results here now. And we crashed. All right, so that's what we're gonna call it. The card's done, it's frozen, it can't take anymore. We'll go ahead and upload this score. Look, this is where I need you guys to tell me. Do you wanna keep seeing these videos, albeit less frequent? I'm not a full-time XOC, or extreme overclocker, so it's really difficult to take the amount of time it does. Like, we lose an entire day. We do an entire day on this, which is funny because if I did it the right way, I would do 2 or 3 runs and be done. And trust me, right now my brain goes, you're making progress. Now's not the time to stop. I want to keep going. So anyway, if you guys want to know if I kept going and got a better score, then all you need to do is go to Port Royal, whatchamacallits, the Hall of Fame, and then see if my score is higher, 17,574. What makes me happy about this run though is I wanted to crack 2,600. That was this arbitrary number in my head that I was like, if I could beat that, then I'm validated as an overclocker, regardless of where I land on the leaderboard. But as you can see right there, 2,610 megahertz. I think there's other things in my system that are holding back this overall efficiency here, or this number. I feel like system related wise, I don't think I'm on the proper platform, if you want to know the truth. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Sound off below if you guys want me to continue doing this, maybe once or twice a month at the most. Take you guys along for the ride. Otherwise, go to 3D Mark Hall of Fame, go to Port Royal, sort by X1 or X2, and you'll see our scores, and you'll see if I beat that or not. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, see you in the next one.